My name's Jake. I wanted to tell you, make this message, because if anything happens to me and any of my friends, somebody needs to know what's going on. I can't tell you where I live or my last name. You just have to trust me that what I'm talking about is real. This is a real place, a real town. It may even be your town.
Welcome to Thoughtspeak, a podcast dedicated to the weekly discussion of K. Applegate's 1996 book series, Animorphs. My name is Coleman.
And my name is Mitchell.
Another week, another podcast.
That's a good attitude going into this.
No, it's a sigh of happiness.
Oh, well, yeah. I'm happy too. Happy to read Animorphs and talk about it with you.
Yeah, no, reading Animorphs and then talking about it has become, a little bit of a break in my week. Especially the last couple weeks that have been just absolutely crazy.
Well, really, the only thing we're doing differently is recording our conversations because we'd be talking about them anyway.
Well, we're recording them and then I'm sitting there editing them for 3 days.
No, we talk and then it ends up on the internet magically, and that's all I know.
If we could just live stream our cell phone conversations, surely the NSA is already doing that. If we could just get their feed and then post those as the podcasts.
Yeah, I'll call them up and request a recording.
I mean, that would just be extremely helpful to my mental stability.
Okay, well, this is our general chit-chat time, so I'd like to chit-chat a little bit about a super awesome surprise that I had forgotten about, tucked away inside my book number 5 that we'll be talking about here tonight. It's a decal, an iron-on decal for a t-shirt. These used to, they put them in a couple of books, I think.
Is yours in the middle?
Yeah, it's in the middle. And it's just a very simple circle that says, it's got the Animorphs logo on it, and it says, oh boy, this is going to be hard to read. It's backwards. So it says, it says, the Yeerks are among us. Animorphs. And then it's got a link to I'm sure, outdated or non-existent website.
Well, I mean, I remember having one of those, probably with a later book. Maybe? And it was, the one I had was just one big Animorphs logo in the, ovally rectangle logo, on the front of the books. And it was just that. It was just a simple logo, and then you iron it onto a black t-shirt or something.
Oh, well, that would be cool. I can't honestly say I'm going to tear this out and apply it to any of my t-shirts.
You should.
I should. Some of the books actually, I think, had stickers in them.
Yeah, I was about to say they had various things tucked away in them. It was always you'd either get a sticker, an Animorphs T-shirt, press-on thing, decal like you were talking about, or there'd be some contest of the week that would have the top-notch Animorphs Scholastic animators animating you into the animal of your choice if you won.
Oh yeah, I think I kind of remember that. I remember on the Animorphs website, the Scholastic website, they used to have a little flash game that you could play where you'd just move. It was basically like clip art images of animals, and you'd move them around like a little maze-like level, and I don't know, collect items or something or keys to move forward. And as stupid as that sounds, it was actually entertaining back in the day.
Why didn't you bring up this during our extremely in-depth Animorphs video game talk? This seems relevant. Why are you bringing it up now?
'Cause I feel like it.
Stop holding back Animorphs vital information from our listeners.
Well, you should know right now that I only do things that I feel like doing. So
I don't know how I get you back every week.
Yeah. Well, I wish I had some Animorph stickers right about now.
Yeah, they look pretty sweet on my back of my laptop or something. Take that to coffee shop, show it off.
Well, actually, you know what? If you just hopped onto one of these custom websites where you can upload your own design or whatever and get stuff made with that design on it, you could just throw an Animorphs logo on something. Get it on a coffee mug if you want.
Yeah, no, I mean, if we ever get, a decent amount of listeners, eventually, and we've got a good amount right now, but I'm saying if we get into the higher echelons of Animorphs nostalgia searching, podcast listeners, I would totally love to do a couple custom t-shirts, like a really subtle and nice, sharing t-shirt. I've seen a couple of them. We plugged that one guy's Zazzle store or whatever. But I'd like to do one that looks like a totally normal, brand or company or something that's just promoting the sharing. And it'd be something you could wear around. You could wear to, in a professional environment or wherever. And people would have no idea what it is until you run across the random Animorphs fan who's like, yeah, sharing. Bro, I'm with you.
I saw somebody compliment us on our Facebook page about the nice little pictures that you're creating for each episode. And
yeah.
I think it would be kind of cool if after we're completely done with the series and we have 55 of those little picture designs, if you could somehow find a way to throw them all on a t-shirt, that'd be great.
Well, I was going to do, I think, I was already thinking after the 5th book or maybe after the 10th book or something, putting a bunch of them together into one picture as a wallpaper or something. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, if you could come up with a cool design.
Yeah, because I really like doing those. They're really fun, and I like finding, all the stuff for them and throwing them together in Photoshop. I'm not all that great, but they're a nice little thing to put together, and they look pretty good.
Yeah, I can't wait until you get to, let's see, I'm looking at book 34 right here, and it's got Cassie morphing a Hork-Bajir. You're going to have to find a nice Hork-Bajir silhouette.
Oh, it'll be easier than finding a dolphin skin. My gosh, you'd think that tons of people are running around town taking pictures of close-ups of dolphin skin, but nope. Not happening.
You know what? I am kind of surprised you didn't just find a super high-quality picture of a dolphin and zoom way in. And just
I looked.
Do that.
There's really not much out there. And there's a couple you could do that with, but those are the ones that are, 10 feet away from the dolphin on, a 70mm lens. You're still not going to get that extreme close-up of the skin like I've been doing with the cats and red-tailed hawks and everything else.
Oh, well, sorry it's not going your way.
No, I think it'll be easier with a gorilla, probably. Or I could switch that out with, chimp hair or something. I don't know. Anything will work for that.
I could just give you a close-up on a shot of my leg. I've got pretty hairy legs. Although you're a pretty hairy gent yourself.
Yeah, no, I'd like to keep it, like to at least be the basis in the right, subspecies.
We're close. It's 90-some%. Same DNA.
And when we get to the Megamorphs and the Chronicle books, I plan on doing something completely different for those books.
Oh, well, I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, no, I got to think about it and make it look good, jazz up the site, and all that stuff. But we can switch up a lot of things for those books. We can have different intros and maybe switch up the formatting, which we haven't completely nailed our formatting yet, but we're still gonna switch it up.
Yeah, I can't wait for that.
Yeah, it's gonna be good stuff. So, well, we're just talking.
We're just killing time.
We're just killing time at this point, talking about future plans and such. But we could jump right into the book if you wanted to.
Well, here's the thing. I am really excited to get into this one. And no, I know I say that a lot, but this time I mean it.
I like that becoming a regular thing, that you're really excited.
Well, you know what? It's going to happen where we're going to get to a book where I'm just like, I am not excited to talk about this one. Rachel turning into a starfish episode.
You know what? I'm really excited for that one because everyone keeps talking about it and I've never read it. I'm super excited for that one.
Well, do you want to get into it?
Yes.
You think we should?
Let's go ahead and jump into our discussion of Animorphs book number 5, The Predator.
Animorphs versus Predator.
Help! 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 Wait! Help! 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 Wait! Wait! Stop! Stop!
Their bodies were now hosts, harboring an alien form of life, a cosmic form, which to survive must take over every human man. So I ran.
They're after you! They're after all of us! Our wives, our children, everyone! They're here already! You're next! You're next! You're next! You're next! You're next!
So, as I said, today we are talking about book number 5, The Predator. And we're going to jump right into the back of the book summary. So, here I go. Marco never wanted to be an Animorph. He never wanted the ability to change into any animal he touches. He just wants to chill. Whatever happens, happens. Jake, Rachel, Cassie, and Tobias know why Marco feels the way he does. He's worried about his dad, the only family Marco has left. And if anything happens to him, his father will be all alone. But something is about to change Marco's mind. It seems the Yeerks have a little surprise waiting for him, and it's definitely not nice. Now Marco has a reason to fight.
You know what I'd like to point out here? No mention of Axe on the back of this book.
Because it's, if they mention him in the back, like, and Axe is there doing wacky stuff. If they mention that, it kind of makes us like Axe more and be like, oh man, it sucks that he's going to leave. And maybe he's not going to leave. And then you get to the book and you're like, well, he's definitely not going to leave. Where's this plot going?
I'm just saying that usually in the back of the books, whenever they get to the part where they say Jake, Rachel, Cassie, and Tobias, they throw Axe in there. Or sometimes they'll say Axe and the Animorphs, or whatever.
Oh, that's a good point.
I just thought that considering Axe is just added to the cast, the fact that he's not included in the back of the book summary.
I'd say he's not an official Animorph yet. I think that's why it is. He's just, right at this point, he is a side character who is prominent, but he's not an Animorph yet.
Well, he's going to be pretty dang important in this book.
Oh, yeah, he is. I'm surprised at the end or in the next book they don't have like some kind of ceremony where they like shake his hand or something and welcome to the Animorphs.
No, the initiation ceremony into the Animorphs Club is being put in a life-threatening situation where you're forced to join.
Yep, some people do well, some people do not.
It's a sink-or-swim industry, being an Animorph.
It really is.
Sometimes literally.
Okay, well, let's jump in. Let's just get into the actual nitty-gritty of the book.
Yeah, and obviously it's a Marco book. We've got on the cover Marco transforming into his ever-popular gorilla morph. Very, very famous. And as always, the books start out with their recaps, and this one's a little bit different. I would say that this goes above and beyond the normal recaps in that it's almost like a self-contained little short story, and it's just perfect. We've got Marco on his way home from grocery shopping at a 7-Eleven convenience store, and I just thought right away, how bad is the situation where Marco is probably 13, 14 at this point. He's going out super late at night and doing the grocery shopping for his dad because, his dad is at this point is still a wreck. I just thought that was a very messed up situation. But I guess that's kind of normal.
That's his life at this point in the series. He's doing the grocery shopping at a 7-Eleven, just getting the basics, milk and bread.
Yeah. And unfortunately, on his way home, he happens upon a little mugging in progress. There's, I think, about 3 punks holding up some old man or something. And we get this awesome little vigilante justice scene here of Marco where he knows he shouldn't get involved. He knows it's dangerous. He knows it's stupid. But when you've got the power to help, you do it. So he goes and morphs gorilla and pretty easily manages to take out these punks. But I just love this ending part here where even though he saves this man and chases off these 3 punks, the guy's still terrified because there's a gorilla there beating people up, and he ends up getting shot at by this guy he just saved. And it's kind of a brilliant little recap of the series so far. In a nutshell, it's just the Animorphs are going to do the right thing and they're going to help, and it's never going to turn out the way they want it.
Yeah, it 100% mirrors, the series overall. But you got to think, I mean, up until 50 years ago, even though all gorillas do all day long is sit and eat, and every once in a while move to a new place so they can sit and eat, we were still, as a species, terrified of them. We were killing them left and right, and we're just making up wild stories about how they would rape our women and just completely kill us if we got anywhere near them. And they're scary creatures to be near, and I think that's
Now, wait a minute. I have seen the movie Congo, so I feel like I know a thing or two about gorillas.
Are you kidding me? I saw Congo when I was a little kid, and it scared the crap out of me. Even though there's a nice, friendly gorilla for most of the movie.
Well, one friendly gorilla who's, doing sign language compared to, 900 murderous gorillas.
Oh, man, that was a scary movie as a child.
Yeah,
And I saw Alien when I was, 7, and I think Congo freaked me out more. But, moving on. This confrontation with the old man leads to a famous, or the infamous meeting spot at Cassie's farm. They're not in the barn, but they're out near the clearing, and they're going over Marco's heroics and his stories, which they're all super calm about him morphing for, not personal gain, but morphing out in the public that's not Yeerk related, when he's freaked out on all of them for doing the exact same thing.
Everybody's at Cassie's meadow to kind of meet up like they always do, and there's a little bit more recap, a little bit more character description, stuff like that, and another bit of good dialogue where everyone's just kind of chatting. Animorphs books has really good interaction scenes between all the characters. At least at this point where there's, still development happening.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of development in general, which we get throughout this book. Some of the best of the beginning of the series.
Yeah, and the reason everybody's at Cassie's meadow is to meet their brand new Andalite friend, Axe.
Yeah, so they get to see Axe's new home on the outskirts of Cassie's farm, and the reason they're having this meeting is because Axe wants to go home. Earth is nice. He'd rather be back in his scoop, tucked in with his parents on the Andalite homeworld.
While they're all gathered there, Jake mentions their next mission is going to be to try and steal a Yeerk ship.
Yeah, they're getting pretty bold. I mean, they're a few missions in, and they're already trying stuff like this.
There's a good bit of a little scene here between Axe and Marco, where Axe is still a little naive. He still has not quite wrapped his mind around what they're really trying to accomplish here, and he kind of questions their reason for fighting, and he's under the assumption that, they're fighting for honor and all of this. And Marco kind of points it out pretty point blank that, they're fighting specifically to save the world and to not die.
Well, yeah, and I think you've got the order of those wrong. They're looking to not die and possibly save the world if they can. And it's not a selfish, self-preservation thing. It's, as Marco points out, if they die, there is no one to save the world. They're it. If they're gone, nobody knows about the Yeerks, nobody can do anything about the Yeerks. It's just them. So survival is actually really high on their mission list for good reason.
Marco is kind of hesitant with the whole plan to steal a Yeerk ship because he thinks it's impossible, but Axe is quick to point out that he can create a kind of distress beacon to sort of lure down a bug fighter. And everyone's pretty surprised by that, but he claims he can do it with some primitive Earth technology parts.
Yeah, and they're pretty quick to jump onto this plan. I think because Axe sounds so confident in it, being a good idea, and this will totally get me home, guys. I'm the Andalite. I know what I'm talking about. Let's move forward with this plan. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, and Marco is immediately like, look, dude, you don't have any idea how scary fighting is and war. And neither do we, but we know a little bit better than you. And Axe immediately kind of, tail
Balks.
between the legs, slinks away.
Yeah, and you know what? But Axe, I think what really sells them on this just incredibly stupid mission, I think what really sells them to move forward with it is the fact that Axe is like, look, if I get home, I can, nudge up to my brother's friends over there in the military and say, hey, let's head back to Earth. Let's get that going a little quicker. And that's what they want to hear. They want someone to come and save them from their responsibility. So that's all he needed to say, and they were definitely on board.
Yeah, even though the chapter ends with them deciding to take a vote on the mission, it pretty much makes the assumption that they're all voting to do it.
Oh yeah, I mean, that was a clever transition on Applegate's part of, it's heavily implying what's going to happen when they take a vote, and it jumps to the next scene where it's already been decided. So
yes,
I always like
in
things like
fact,
that.
in the next scene, everyone's trying to coordinate a mall trip with Axe, and this is I think one of the most memorable scenes from this book, if not the entire series. Is just the very first time Axe goes to the mall and gets to experience taste as a human. It's definitely one of the most memorable scenes.
Let's go to the mall.
And it's very funny how everybody has to work together to kind of coordinate this trip with all the timing and everything, because Axe has obviously got to be in human morph for it. And yeah, time is of the essence.
Here's one of my first notes in this book. I thought was interesting to piggyback on what we were talking about at the end of the last episode.
Oh yeah.
Axe says something here.
Yep, I know exactly what you're talking.
Yep.
I made the same note.
Where he's already integrated clothing into his morph.
Yeah. Jake basically just says, "An Axe, remember the clothing," and Axe replies with this one line that's, "I have integrated clothing into into my human morph," but it's like,
what?
That's another thing. How?
I mean, the only thing I can think of is he morphed a human, put on some tight-fitting clothes, and then morphed back. But it's just, I mean, okay, I guess you could say, no, I was going to say maybe it's hanging out in zero space, like with the rest of their mass, but I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't get it.
I think it's like, like morphing a gorilla, you picture the gorilla, and that's what you get. Whereas like morphing a human, you could imagine the human naked, or you could imagine, the biker shorts and the t-shirt on it, and that's what you get.
The biggest problem though is they go to great lengths to say that it is all DNA based. If it's not part of the DNA, it's not going to affect the morph.
Yeah. And how is clothing DNA related? Unless this is like, they don't want to go into the detail and mention it, but maybe Axe's, biker shorts are actually just made out of skin. like neon green skin.
No, there is something going on with this morphing technology. I know it's just a ploy for the author to not have them run around naked everywhere, but there has to be something that Axe knows about this morphing technology that has to do with clothing or tight-fitting things or something that allows that it never gets brought up.
Maybe it's like a computer program where, you get the base program to acquire and morph DNA, but maybe if you tweak a couple settings, you can hit the advanced options tab and morph some clothing or combine DNA.
Somewhere out there is an Andalite running around who could tell them how to morph shoes if they would only find him and ask.
Oh, yeah, that's what they need. The one guy who knows.
They need to find that Andalite cobbler who's hanging out on the fourth moon of Andalitonia.
Even though Andalites don't wear shoes, because that's where their mouths are.
How do you know they don't wear, horseshoes?
Oh, because they have mouths on the bottom of their feet, that's why.
Yeah, have you ever worn a scarf over your mouth?
Only every day of my life.
exactly.
Well, we're a
Oosh.
little off topic. X has just he's achieved God mode with his morphs. I think it's safe to say, and they take him to the mall, and within probably a page, a page into the chapter, they just immediately lose X.
I like to think it's they walk through the front doors. Marco and Jake's feet hit the first tile of linoleum, and Axe is just gone.
It is almost kind of like that. They literally walk in, start questioning where, Radio Shack is. I think that's where they're going. And they turn around and Axe is just gone. I have to wonder what the hell Axe is thinking. As an alien in a new world, why would you leave the only people you know to just run off?
Yeah. Well, I mean, luckily, he's adapting to Earth pretty well because they find him pretty quickly in a Starbucks. So he's obviously fitting in with the population.
Oh, yeah, he's trying to buy coffee when, of course, he has no concept of what it is he's doing or money or anything like that. And they find him and they have to pay for the coffee for him. And giving Axe coffee was just a bad idea in general.
Getting him anything taste related was a bad idea.
Well, they didn't know at this point, but I'm sure the coffee didn't help what's about to happen. But they do manage to drag him into a Radio Shack, and he finds mostly everything he needs, except for a zero-space transponder.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Apparently, with parts that you can find at Radio Shack, you can build yourself an alien calling device.
Yeah. So after beaming the Radio Shack employee in the head with his coffee cup.
Yeah, I love that. When he's done drinking it and he asks Marco what to do with it, Marco says, "Oh, you can just throw it away." And he literally, chucks it hard.
Yeah, he,
at
beams
the person.
it. Yeah. After that, they head back out into the mall, and again, Axe immediately disappears.
Yeah, he takes off to go taste more stuff. And why wouldn't you with your brand new mouth?
Yeah, this Radio Shack must have been pretty close to the food court because he smelled the Cinnabon from that far away and went running.
They find him in the food court, and he's just going from table to table, eating everything in sight, and people are freaking out. Cops are coming, or mall cops are coming.
It's pandemonium, and it's what we'll see every time any type of Andalite comes to Earth. I mean, they go nuts for the sense of taste. It's an entirely new sense. I mean, it'd be like us, developing, X-ray vision or something. We would respond giddily and excitedly.
Andalites come to Earth, and that is the beginning of the obesity epidemic for the Andalite race.
Yeah. But after Axe goes crazy and he's eating things left and right, and Marco and Jake are right there, but they can't get a hold of him yet. This, of course, gets the attention of every mall cop within a, half-mile radius of the center of the mall.
With all the mall cops setting in, they have no choice but to flee, since, Axe is technically still in morph, and at this point, he's running out of time, in fact. And as they start running through the mall from these mall cops, Axe starts to demorph. Right there in the mall.
Yeah, I don't know what his plan was there. I guess it says that he was just, not very confident running on two legs, so he wanted to get all four hoofs back.
Yeah, that's it. And in fact, I think in the next book he even makes a little joke about how humans can run on two legs.
Yeah. But they get out of the mall. Axe is fully demorphed. They've now got actual cops on their tail. And the only place they can see nearby that they could maybe escape to is a grocery store.
Yeah, they run into a supermarket.
Yeah. They jump in there, and I don't know what plan they had going in, probably just to find an exit or whatever. But as they're running through the aisles, Marco sees, there's a lobster tank in the back. Maybe that's useful for us. And they do manage to block the entryway a little bit, so it'll at least slow down all the cops amassing outside. Mixed in with controllers who have already identified Nandalite, so they know, they're not messing around with just normal cops now.
And we get a nice addition to their morphing roster, the lobster, which I'm sure will be revisited at least once.
Yeah, at least once. And it is a cool little scene right here where they're acquiring the morph and morphing into the lobster. It actually was pretty tense in the book.
Lobster eyes apparently suck because they sit in this tank for quite a while. And they can't see outside of the tank or anything like that. They have a notion of somebody picking them up, and they get packed in ice. And I thought this was super creepy. I was just imagining being in this scenario where you are a lobster and you can feel the ice all around you. And Marco, who is the narrator of the book, mentions the ice is making him kind of sleepy in morph, or not sleepy, but docile. And that's kind of alarming.
Yeah, that was a nice touch. I mean, that's what happens when you go buy a lobster. You put them in ice and they go into this catatonic state.
They are packed up and being moved somewhere, and Marco's just kind of chilling out, and X suddenly mentions, we have 7 minutes left in this morph, and that totally freaks them all out. So they decide that it's time to demorph now, regardless of where they're at. They don't care who sees. They do not want to be stuck in lobster morph forever. So it's demorphing time, just as Marco is about to be fed into a pot of boiling water, which is, I think, every lobster's fear. Or would be if lobsters could fear.
Oh, they can fear, all right. Maybe, I don't know. And the biggest thing here is after they demorph, you've got this Andalite and 2 teenage kids who have turned from lobsters into their forms there and now. And there's just a woman in the corner just screaming her head off. Because obviously, morphine is terrifying. Even if it didn't look crazy like they described in the book. The idea is terrifying, especially when you're about to cook these things for dinner.
I like the fact that they managed to convince this screaming, poor woman that it's all just a dream and she needs to not talk to anybody about it. Don't tell anybody about it. And I really like how they point out there are 3 other actual lobsters that the people brought home. It was a dinner for 6. And Marco mentions to her before they leave, why don't you take those other lobsters down to the sea and let them go?
I don't think they convince her at all. I think this is yet another point where the Animorphs have completely exposed themselves to someone and just left them to, I hope they don't say anything, because their mindset is, if they tell someone, they'll just be crazy. But so many people are becoming Yeerks left and right and becoming controllers. It's insane to leave anyone who exposed to your biggest secret. I'm not saying they should kill her or anything, but there's a pretty decent chance that this person could eventually become a Yeerk, remember this situation, and then totally expose who they are.
It could happen, but I guess it's not something they can worry about when they're about to end up as a lobster meal.
If Rachel were there, she would have taken care of the situation. That's all I'll say.
There's a recurring theme throughout most of these Animorphs books, at least in the beginning. I don't know about later in the series, but all these bad morphs they keep experiencing are just feeding their nightmares constantly. That's definitely been something mentioned in almost every book.
Yeah, and you're talking about the beginning of the next chapter, which, I mean, they've had some crazy dreams, but this was a fairly graphic, violent dream.
It was weird.
It's messed
It was
up.
weird.
Yeah, this is one part of what makes this book stand out from the other ones, in that it went hog wild. It didn't care. It's a kid's book. It doesn't care what you're thinking. It's fairly graphic throughout.
And I think the point of this little nightmare scene again is to have another scene of Marco interacting with his father, who comes to wake him up and is worried that Marco might have been having a nightmare about his mother who had died. It's coming up on the 2-year anniversary of his mother's death.
Yeah, that's the real story of this book, is the 2-year anniversary coming up, like you said, like the next Sunday or something. And this tradition that him and his father have of going to his mother's grave and just kind of hanging out, and his dad still being in this state of depression over her death. And Marco's super worried about it. He's worried about his dad's reaction, whether they're going to talk about it, his own reaction. But his mom is definitely being brought up more often than the other books.
The next scene is everybody going back to kind of check in on Axe and see how his little his machine is coming along. And he's basically finished it, aside from the fact that they're still missing this Z-space transponder. And they don't really have any clues how to get something like that. But Axe mentions how maybe if a controller called the Yeerk ship, the mothership, to talk to them, they would have to have one of these Z-space transponder parts. And it's Tobias who suggests, well, our vice principal Chapman, who is a controller, calls Visser 3 to talk to him on the phone. So it would stand to reason that he probably has one of these in his basement. And
Axe confirms that. He's like, yeah, if he's talked to him at all, he has one.
Right.
So
they know that their best shot is the Chapman household. However, Rachel, still a sore subject for her. She's against, putting her friend Melissa in danger anymore, and just thinks it's too risky. They can't recreate the plot from book 2.
Yeah.
So they're gonna have to come up with a different suggestion.
Oh, and who comes up with the suggestion? Who leads them on this amazingly carefree journey they're about to partake in?
I would like to think that everyone is super pissed at Cassie for this, but Cassie suggests maybe if they had a small enough morph, they could sneak in unnoticed. And the smallest morph that she could possibly conceive of would be Ant. And this is another reason why this book is fantastic.
She is supposed to be our beacon of knowledge. She's supposed to be our insight into the animal kingdom and how these animals interact, what's safe to morph. This is what you're here for.
Yeah, she really dropped the ball on not doing the research on this one.
She's a conundrum of a character.
Well, the next day in school, we get another little scene of regular life from the Animorphs. And we've got Jake telling Marco, kind of casually, that it's going to be black ants. We had Tobias scope out the area around Chapman's house. Turns out they're black ants around there. And Marco is against the idea of just doing bug morphs in general. He's like everybody else at this point, not down for the idea of becoming bugs. Bugs are just too disgusting at this point, which, to us seasoned readers, and especially considering the next book,
yeah,
we know that this is kind of, it's wishful thinking at this point to not have to morph bugs.
This leads to the real problem at hand that he's having, in that this is a new morph, a new type of morph completely, and it's another incredibly dangerous situation. And this is when he clues Jake into the 2-year anniversary, and we get the actual a little insight into, or a little peek into the backstory of what happened to his mom with her taking the ship out and drowning at sea, and why did she go alone, and why did all these things happen, and he tells it to Jake and gets his sympathy or whatever. But he's very much against this mission in particular because of how dangerous it is following all the dangerous missions they've just gone on. I mean, a trip to Radio Shack nearly killed all of them.
That is true. That's a good way to think of that.
Yeah.
The next scene has everyone meeting up at the for sale house that is right next door to Chapman's. And they even say, wonder why these people wanted to move. Maybe they didn't like living next to evil slugs from outer space.
Or maybe it was just, really good for the plot.
They kind of get right into it, and everybody starts morphing ant. And right away, it's a different morph in that the ant kind of has no sense of self. It's all about the hive, and that is a bad sign immediately. Everyone's kind of freaking out a little bit, but Tobias manages to snap them out of it, and they sort of become aware. And Tobias is very, very concerned for them at this point. He tells them to abandon mission.
Well, yeah, it's not like a regular, oh no, I'm a prey animal, so I'm like super scared, or the cool collected mind of a predator. This is completely different. This is a mindset of a finger instead of a person. This is a part of a larger being that has no self-awareness, and they don't just lose themselves to it, they lose thought process to it. It's just instinct, move forward, kill. It's pretty terrifying.
Despite Tobias's warnings, they decide that they are capable enough to go through with the mission, and they start moving around through the backyard, and I guess they find their way into the Chapman household basement by some cracks in the wall, and there's actually a funny little moment where they're wandering through some ant tunnels, and I think it's Rachel sees another ant, an enemy ant, and she kind of gets a little scared for a moment and mentions the ant turned and ran off. So they got lucky at that point.
Oh, they think they're lucky. Really, they just, probably met a scout or something.
That could be. But they end up making it into the basement fairly safe and sound, and everybody demorphs, of course, because ant morphs are not going to be very helpful once they're inside. I like that Marco just immediately starts playing with the computer, the super high-tech, not hover, what the?
Holographic display?
Yeah, the hologram computer. Marco starts playing with this hologram computer, and by luck, by coincidence, by plot exposition, happens to find a document that reveals that Visser 1 is coming to Earth.
We get a good little bit of world building here, where Axe kind of walks them through the hierarchy of command structure in the Yeerk Empire, and we find out that there's 47 Vissers. Obviously, Visser 3 and Visser 1 are the top dogs. I assume Visser 2 in there, but we don't hear much about him. But
not for a long time.
Yeah, but yeah, we get some great insight into the your command structure that I think is really interesting and necessary for us to learn more about this place and think of it as a real universe.
X finds the part that he needs, and this I thought was kind of strange. So this Z-space transponder, this super important part that's necessary for alien, transmissions, it's the size of a pea. They say it's no larger than a pea, but they describe it as a disc. So I'm thinking of a CD that's the size of a pea. That seems like some real small, powerful technology there.
Yeah, it's like a microchip, just, an alien advanced technological version.
Yeah, that's pretty advanced.
Mm-hmm. So they use their incredible strength in Antmorph to, 3 or 4 of them are pushing this thing back up the crack. And
yeah, I think they lodge it in the crack or something in the wall and then morph Ant.
Yeah. Which, so far, they've gotten away scot-free. It's not a bad... It's going a lot better than the last time they snuck into Chapman's office.
Oh, yeah, definitely. They get the Z-Space transponder, in the wall, and they're all in Antmorph. They're chugging along through the enemy ant mines, dragging this thing, and here is where things become not fun for the team.
Let me revise that for you. Here's where things become absolutely horrifying for the team.
It's kind of on par with, one of the worst horror movies imaginable.
Yeah, and I don't even know if you could turn this into a horror movie, because it's really their perspective, and us being in the middle of it in a book that makes it so scary, because it's just scary. That's the best way you can describe it.
The way that it's written is what makes it so scary, because you don't get, action like, oh, the ant, came after us, and the ant was upon me, and it was biting. You get just little snippets and sentences of them screaming in terror about how there's an ant over here and it's ripping me apart. And basically all we get are the screams of the Animorphs.
Basically, while they're climbing back up and pushing this disc up, they are swarmed by the colony that they're in. And they're literally being ripped apart. There's, Cassie loses a leg. They're going after their faces, their eyes, their torsos. The entire time, after the first few seconds, Marco has an ant literally gnawing through his, midsection, trying to cut him in half. And it's doing a pretty good job. It's gonna get him.
It's safe to say everyone on the team is close to dying here. This is as close a call as Marco getting torn apart by the shark in the last book.
This is way worse than that.
Because it's everybody.
Yeah, and it's not like, oh, I'm bit, I'm really hurt. How are we gonna get me back to shore? We're all losing limbs and being torn apart. It even says poisoned. Their ants are stinging them and spitting poison at them, so they're being burned alive as well as they're being ripped apart.
It gets so bad that they have to demorph when they're not even to safety yet. They're demorphing and they're still underground. It says they're all popping out of the ground as they're demorphing, kind of like zombies.
Yeah. And while they're recovering on the ground from what just happened, there's a funny little line about Rachel stamping the ground in the background to fix the upset dirt.
Oh, yeah.
And it even makes a little comment like, yeah, totally, to fix it. She's not, just trying to kill as many ants as possible. But yeah, that's a pretty insane scene for the series so far, and it shows us how far the series is willing to go to make its point.
Ant morph is definitely one of the most traumatizing experiences for the Animorphs in general. This will be referenced throughout the series. Never again will we morph ant.
Yeah, not even close. But...
And in fact, it's so bad that the nightmares really start to wear on the team over the next couple of days or pages or chapters.
Yeah, when they get to school the next day, they got the disc. It's all good. They complete the mission. Hurrah. But when they're at school the next day, as Marco is seeing the other Animorphs in the hallway, they are beyond frazzled. They are no one slept. No one has gotten through the night. They've all been thinking about what happened. This was a near-death experience. And Marco, even though he doesn't name it, because they didn't really talk about this much in the late 90s, but he starts talking about a major point in the series, that this post-traumatic stress disorder that they'll all come to know and love as part of their personalities. He starts going into it and how that's what happened to them. They can't deal with what they just went through.
No, and in fact, Marco even makes a point to compare their current states to his father's, in that everyone is just so depressed and worn out and basically dead inside. And it's so bad that Rachel even snaps on some kid at school over some trivial matter, and she's ready to just pulverize this kid until Marco steps in to interfere.
Great scene. Rachel Rachel could have killed her. Rachel's, at this point, she's a seasoned warrior. She's not going to deal with some snotty, girl who's giving her crap during the lunchroom. What is that? I'm surprised Rachel didn't go straight to elephant right there.
Well, Rachel's a little bit smarter than that. But this altercation does land them both in Vice Principal Chapman's office, and they get a lovely little scene here with Chapman trying to interrogate them. And Marco kind of diffuses the whole situation with a little bit of his trademark, comedy and wit. And it's enough to kind of calm Rachel down and win her back over. And they even get a little moment here towards the end.
Yeah, Rachel gives him a nice little compliment, and she compliments on him on being able to laugh at any situation, and she tells him to keep going.
She says, "We need that. Keep it up."
Yeah,
I know you're snarky kind of idiot sometimes, but we really need that when we're almost dying by ants.
You're our snarky idiot. Now it's time for Cassie's farm meeting number 3.
Cut
3 times
to
this book. Yeah. For the third time, they meet up at Cassie's farm, and Axe is done with the distress beacon. He's ready to initiate phase 2 of steal a Yeerk ship, which they decide to actually leave town and do it further away from their city, which is smart. I mean, they can't keep doing everything in the same place, or the Yeerks are going to wise up.
They decide on activating this distress beacon at a rock quarry that's about an hour away, they mentioned. So Axe needs a bird morph.
Yeah, and he gets it. He turns into a northern harrier. Is that right?
Yes, northern harrier is what Cassie sets him up with.
After Jake says goodbye to Cassie and everybody's going home or whatnot, him and Marco walk home, and they talk normal for a while, baseball, video games, blah, blah, blah. But Jake notices that something's off about Marco, and he calls him out on it. And Marco drops the mic and says, "This is my last mission. This is it. I can't do this anymore.
I'm out. After this one, I'm out."
Yeah, he's done. He can't take the nightmares, can't take Antmorphs, can't do that to his dad. That's just...
at this point, the biggest factor for him in deciding this is just, he cannot risk having something bad happen to him, because his dad would, if Marco dies, his dad dies.
And he's obviously been saying this. He's been saying this the entire series, but
now he means it.
5 missions in, it's even more real that he's probably going to die if he keeps, fighting in this war.
Exactly. They fly to the quarry, and Axe gets to geek out a little bit about his bird morph and how much he loves flying and how much he loves the eyes compared to human eyes.
Oh, and I'd say this is a pretty, it's not super important, but I like that Axe has a scene like this where he reacts to the bird morph similar to how they reacted when they all got their first bird morphs. Because it kind of makes him more like them in our minds. It insinuates him into the group more than we've seen before. So that's a nice touch for where this is all going.
They give Rachel, who has the biggest bird morph, the eagle, the little device that Axe built, which they say is the size of a TV remote. And everybody, reaches the rock quarry where they're going and demorph and try to coordinate this sneak attack that they're about to pull.
While they're waiting for the bug fighter to show up after they've activated this device, they start teasing each other on whose battle morph is the strongest. And it's just another one of those scenes that's like, aw, they're real people. And, of course, Cassie's is the worst. They all think they can beat her.
I would beg to differ. Cassie brings up a very good point that her wolf morph could probably outrun most of them, aside from Jake's tiger. And once they tired, I don't think a gorilla or, well, maybe an elephant could fend off a wolf.
I don't think it's the worst morph. I'm just saying they all agree that it is.
Oh, totally. They're all laughing at her.
I think a wolf is a pretty scary animal.
As we've learned in book 3, wolves are not fun.
Yeah. But finally, the bug fighter does arrive, and they're all in battle morph, in their various hiding places. ready to just, they know how many, villains are going to be in there. It's going to be a Hork-Bajir and a Taxxon. They're ready. They've got their battle plan set up where they go in, two at a time and attack different ones and take it over. And I don't see how this could go wrong. It looks great right now, Mitch. What's happening?
Well, after taking out the lone Hork-Bajir and storming the bug fighter, basically a whole crapload of Yeerks show up. It says they line the ridges of this rock quarry that they're at, so it's quite a bit. There's a lot of them showing up to ambush them.
I grew up near a rock quarry, and if this is a normal one, these are massive places. So to have them lining the entire sides, this is thousands of Hork-Bajir.
Yeah. I kind of wonder how they coordinated that so fast.
I think they have probably certain situations and procedures in place for getting wrong codes, like just happened. I'm sure the Andalites, like Axe even said, this is why this was a dumb plan. Axe said himself, "Oh, we do this all the time. It's fine. It works out." I mean, you can only, count on them falling for it so many times before, your random codes that you remember are going to work.
Yeah, but if you think about it, okay, so the Yeerks, I don't know why they would be expecting a distress call to come from this particular rock quarry, but it says that, Axe presses the button and activates the distress beacon, and everybody starts going battle morph then, right there when he pushes the button. So everyone morphs, which they said I think takes about 2 minutes. And then very shortly, we just get this dialogue scene of them kind of bragging about their battle morphs. And then the ship shows up. But immediately after they take out this lone Hork-Bajir, that's when the entire army shows up to ambush them. So it's like, that's like a span of maybe 10 minutes for them to set this whole ambush up.
Well, I think what it is, in this universe, in this timeline and everything, for the most part, I think most of the Yeerk ships don't have much to do in orbit. It's not like they're patrolling constantly. I mean, they might be patrolling for if the rogue Andalite ship shows up or if the fleet shows up, but there's no space battles happening or anything. So the Yeerks probably have all these ships, all the fighters, everything with the mothership and the pool ship and all that, probably just on standby. So if any kind of anomaly, especially after these weeks of terrorist attacks on all their, installations and the Yeerk pool and everything, I'm sure they're ready to send as many forces as it takes to capture the Andalite bandits at this point.
Yeah, so I guess it's plausible.
Yeah.
Just saying, kind of unlikely.
Yeah, well, they made it happen. We can only go with the information we have, and the book says it happened. So, realistic
so
me.
They're in this situation where, Hork-Bajir and Taxxon controllers just completely surrounding them. They're trapped. And, of course, Big Bad, Visser 3 shows up.
And he loves Jake's morph.
Oh, yeah. Yep. He's always very complimentative? What's the word there?
Complimentary?
Complimentary? He compliments Jake's tiger morph. He's a gentleman.
he it's cat related. So he's on board immediately.
So Visser 3's taunting them and mentions that he's going to hand him over to Visser 1. And as he's telling him his plans for them, they kind of detect a little hint of malice in his voice. And they come to the realization that it doesn't sound like he really likes Visser 1.
So now the Animorphs go to space, which we've all been waiting for. I don't know why the entire series just had taken place in space. It's kind of weird. I mean, if I were to go to space tomorrow, which is what kind of happens to them, they weren't going to leave with Axe or anything. They weren't expecting this. So their first visit into space and seeing the Earth, what should be kind of an amazing, beautiful moment, is them just, wetting themselves with fear and not knowing what's going to come next.
And, they're stuck in a small, bare room with nothing in it, no chance of escape. And a little window opens up to show them first of all, to show them planet Earth that they're leaving behind. And to show them the sheer size and immensity of the Yeerk mothership that they're heading towards.
And this is strange. Having never read this book before, this is one of those early books I was talking about before that I hadn't read with all the normal ones.
Oh, it's a shame.
It is. So I never had anything to go off of what the Yeerk mothership looked like. I never pictured this sphere with spider legs or anything. I just made it up in my head. So to now actually get a visualization, it's pretty weird. It's like, that's not what it looks like. As they arrive, doors open and they're led onto this ramp, and they see this huge hangar bay filled with hundreds and hundreds of personnel wearing these different colored uniforms. And they start to realize that these groups and these armies are separate, and they're not seeming to get along very well either, or working together very well at the very least.
There's a lot of different controllers on this ship. Also, Hork-Bajir, Taxxons, humans, of course. Everyone's really surprised to see humans in outer space, but, it's the Yeerks. That's what they do.
Yeah, and they say that there's various other aliens there, so we can only assume that the ones we'll learn about later are hanging out.
I'm sure there's some Ged. I'm sure there's some Skritna.
Well, not Skritna. They can't inhabit Skritna.
I'm sure there's some of them there. This is where they encounter Visser 3, who is standing next to his best buddy, Visser 1.
They're not actually best buddies. They actually hate each other.
Oh, you went and...
I just didn't want people to get confused.
I don't have anything clever. I'm speechless. I've got nothing clever to say to that.
Anyway, so as Visser 3 is walking up with Visser 1, big, shocking reveal. This is the Empire Strikes Back moment of the Animorphs series.
It is.
Visser 1 is Marco's mom. Boosh.
No, actually, I think it was quite foreshadowed that at least something was going to happen with Marco's mom.
Oh, of course. They were talking about her in the entire book. But I still don't think you expect to have her be the biggest of all bads, Visser 1 herself.
No, I guess not. And I can't say for sure when I originally read the book that I saw it coming, because I was a dumb kid. But
I didn't even read this book. I went through the rest of the series with that being revealed by every time Marco talks about his reason to fight, and that's where we're at. These first 5 books, as I've mentioned in every single episode, they give their individual narrators their reason to be an Animorph. Here's Marco's. Your mom is not dead. She's over there, and she's your enemy. Go.
Yeah, so that's a pretty good reason to fight.
Yeah, I can't think of anything better than that.
Well, I don't really care about my mom, so I'm just going to let this one go.
Yep, you got her, Yeerks. Good job. I tip my hat to thee.
Well, as soon as Marco, sees Visser 1 as his mom, he's not in a good state. And Jake is just trying to calm him down right away with private Thoughtspeak.
And this is incredibly smart, because there is a really good chance, us being in the head of Marco just being like, Mom? Like, I think he's right on the edge of just thought speaking to her.
If he wasn't in Gorilla Morph, if he was his human self, yeah, maybe. But of course, then Visser 1 would have recognized him right away. And the clock's ticking; they're running out of time. But as they're standing there being evaluated by Vissers 1 and 3, Visser 1 and 3 start to bicker a little while Marco is just kind of trying to keep it together, witnessing his mom and coming to the realization that, she's not dead. And everything that he thought he knew about her death was all a lie. Visser 3 and Visser 1, they bicker a little bit back and forth, and Visser 3 kind of says some stuff that ticks off Visser 1, who eventually storms out on him right before threatening him by saying, you better watch yourself. You better not make any mistakes, because the Council of 13 doesn't like visitors who make mistakes. And leaves him with that little thought in mind. And we've got Jake just trying as hard as he possibly can to calm Marco down. And Marco really accepts his fate. I think he does a pretty good job. while they're still standing there before they're paraded off. We have Axe kind of snapping on Visser 3. And there's a moment where Visser 3 almost puts the pieces of the puzzle together. He comments how, it's strange how all the other Andalite bandits here are in morph, and there's one Andalite who seems to never morph whenever I see him. And he's the only one who talks to me, and he think he's going to put it together, but he just kind of shrugs it off and is willing to accept a coincidence.
Yeah. It's an interesting part that this early in the series, he might have almost gotten there, but...
it seems like they really toy with the idea of making him competent, but they always back out.
Well, that would be no fun.
Well, yeah. Well, the kids get sent back to super jail.
Yeah. Well, no, it's a new super jail.
The mothership super jail.
No window this time, so it's super uber jail.
Yep. And their only plan at this point that they could possibly deduce is maybe we can morph Ant. It's small enough that who knows, maybe we can find a crack or something in here.
Well, no, at first they're all standing around just throwing wild ideas out there. I mean, they're terrified. They don't see a way out of this time. And Cassie's like, maybe if we morph human, they'll take pity on us and let us go. I mean, they're throwing out dumb idea and Cassie level ideas. Especially
the idea of trying to go out in a blaze of glory fighting.
Yeah. And while they're coming up with these horrible Cassie level ideas, Marco stands up and he gives this epic Independence Day style speech on just their resolve and not giving up. And this is where you see, whereas the other people, they had their reasons to fight, Marco's one of the best ones in the sense that he really gets fired up here. I mean, he takes over the group. Jake is just like cowering in the corner. He's not the leader right now. Marco tells them, no, we are Animorphs, and we're going to get out of this. Tobias, you're screwed.
Turns out none of that really matters because the door to their super jail opens, and a very, very well-spoken, well-versed Hork-Bajir shows up, and they notice that he's wearing one of the uniforms. I don't remember which color it is, but
gold.
It's irrelevant.
No, it's 100% relevant. He's wearing a gold uniform.
It's irrelevant when I'm talking, baby.
He's wearing a gold uniform, which is Visser 1's colors.
He's a really smart Hork-Bajir shows up who can speak English very well and tells them point blank, here's the directions on how to get to the escape pods. Go now. And it doesn't take them long to figure out this is one of Visser 1's pawns here, and this is quite obviously, just a case of the Yeerks trying to pull one over on each other.
Yeah, I mean, you look at how the last book ended with them being saved by Super Jesus Whales versus this one where they're basically saved by politics. It's way more clever than the last book. I'll say that.
Yeah, I would say that the last book bothered me with how big of a deus ex machina it is. Whereas this book, when it does it, it's way more believable. And I felt that it was okay that, they're in this impossible to escape situation. They are totally screwed. And something very, very simple comes along and saves them.
Well, not only is it a better way to go about doing something like that, but it actually sets up a character in Visser 1 and sets up this, plot later on about these two warring Vissers. That's insanely interesting. I mean, audiences will accept that all day long if you give them something with it, some meat to it. So that's what we have here.
And I would say that the rivalry between Visser 1 and Visser 3 is one of the great subplots of this whole series.
Mm-hmm. And it definitely saved them here, so...
Oh, yeah. Well, the team manages to, of course, make their escape, and they battle their way through the spaceship halls, heading for the escape pods. And we even get a cool little sci-fi elevator shaft scene where they get into this hover shaft.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. But they do make it to an escape pod. They demorph in the escape pod. and they get back to Earth, which it was not looking good there for a while.
No, they definitely lucked out all throughout this book. The Animorphs getting caught by, Visser 1, Visser 3. And just before, I like this in the escape pod, as they're demorphing, just before Marco loses the ability to Thoughtspeak, he sends Jake a little private message, and he basically just asks him not to tell anyone about his mother being Visser 1, because nobody else knows that that's his mother. Jake's the only one who recognized her, along with Marco.
Yeah.
So, and nobody knows that Visser 1 is his mom, and that's going to be just the situation for a while.
Yeah, I don't remember when the others find out, but it's pretty far on later.
Yes.
But, so, topping off the book at the very end, I'm a fan of how they decided to epilogue this book. I mean, it's kind of an epilogue, where Marco and his dad, as they've been talking about the entire book, they head to the cemetery, and they arrive to honor his mother's death, the 2-year anniversary. And it's really just a scene to lead us into Marco, dealing with the revelation that his mom's not dead, and lead us to, I don't know, a more optimistic ending or a more optimistic outlook for this, broken, shattered family where...
Oh, it definitely is.
Yeah, where the father, he doesn't, right away snap out of it, but he does say, maybe I was thinking about going and talking to Joe or whoever at my old job and seeing if they'll have me back.
Yeah, he's got his old job back at this point, and he's ready to move on. And they even get all buddy at the very end there and start chatting about video games and Doom in particular.
Yeah, you can tell it's a long time coming, and it's a big deal for his dad to even be this jovial, especially at the gravesite of the woman he's been mourning for 2 years straight.
Yeah, and the book ends with Marco kind of, restating his purpose now. He promises to find his mother and free her from the Yeerks. And that's Marco's reason to fight.
That's book 5. Nothing else to say about the storyline. I think we can jump straight into our reviews. And definitely coming back to you starting this one off again. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
Well, it's an easy one for me to review. Honestly, there was nothing that I didn't like about it. How's that for a review? There is nothing I didn't like about this book. Everything was great. We get first Marco being the front man, front and center. Marco's obviously one of my favorite characters. I think he's probably a lot of people's favorite characters. And his first book delivers. It gives us everything we could have possibly wanted. And just the amount of historical firsts in this book. I mean, first Axe food freakout. First, terribly, terribly tragic Antmorph. First run-in with Visser 1. First incredibly hopeless situation where everyone is totally caught by the Yeerks and doomed. It's just such an epic book. It's like a roller coaster. It's like they put a roller coaster in the book. It's amazing. I literally couldn't say anything bad about it. I dare you, Coleman. I dare you to find something wrong with this book. You can't. And I can't. And I won't. I love this book. I am giving this book 5. You hear that? 5 out of 5 Visser 1s.
I'm perfectly fine with you giving it that rating. I mean, we know we have to take off 2 points for every scale you give on your reviews, but that's fine.
You know what? You like to criticize my reviewing system, but I'll tell you what. My reviewing system is based on feeling, okay? And I felt this book. This book felt like a number 5 to me. Let's hear the Master's review then. What say you?
So, I just want to first off say, at the start of my review, that there is a noticeable shift in writing from this book and a couple of the last ones. It is just an incredibly, incredibly clever book. Right from the beginning, like we were talking about, the recap is exceptionally well done and kind of its own thing. It's not this intrusive, meandering and repeating the story that we've already heard before. The beginning, the structure, going into the first act, and the troubles they have, going into the Antmorphs, everything is so well done and funny. It's so clever and funny throughout. I choose to believe that this is Kay Applegate's favorite character, and she knew exactly how and who he should be, and that just inspired her to write at a higher level than she had so far. It's an exceptional book all around. I completely agree with you. My only problems with it are...
Watch it!
It does wrap up a little cleanly. I mean, we have this amazing revelation, and, I compared it earlier to Empire Strikes Back. Empire Strikes Back had no way to wrap up cleanly. It ended horribly, with them all in dire straits and depressed and not knowing where to go next. I think this book could have used an ending like that. It would have fit the tone of the rest of the book, but instead we do get kind of a happy ending, which I think is a little, very, very slightly mismatched with the tone of the rest of the book. And that's the only fault I can say is that. And it is an exceptional book. It is a great book. A lot of great things happen. And for having not read it before, this is only my second time reading it, and the first time was a couple months ago. I mean, it's pretty soon. I was surprised by how much is introduced in this book. I can't even call myself an Animorphs fan for having read this book so late in the series.
You're not.
Yeah, I'm not. I am not the ultimate fan, but I'm glad I got to enjoy it now. And while I think the book overall is exceptional and great, I don't think it reached that higher level that makes it like an iconic Animorphs book in my mind.
Oh, you're wrong.
It has iconic moments, and it has incredibly important things in it, but I don't think it's that, I'm going to remember this book as the iconic Animorphs book.
Boo.
So
Boo.
I'm going to give it 4 out of 5 bowls of lobster bisque as my review. 4 out of 5 is great. That's not even a bad score. That's a great score.
That's undeserving.
It's a great book, and it got a great score.
For a book where the Animorphs literally traipsed around a jungle fighting an alien predator. that didn't happen.
That wasn't this book.
I'm going to write the Animorphs versus Predator fanfiction now.
Only if I can write the book where all 6 Animorphs are hanging out on a derelict spaceship and being hunted one by one by an alien.
Animorphs versus Alien versus Predator?
No, we'll do Animorphs versus Alien. You'll write Animorphs versus Predator, and we'll do an Alien versus Animorphs versus Predator book. It'll be great.
I'm going to do Animorphs meets the Scooby-Doo gang.
That'll be boring.
and then the Harlem Globetrotters.
They show up. But yeah. So that is book 6. We're finished, and I think we don't have any emails this week. We'll get to some more of those later on, but I think we are ready to just go ahead and wrap this one up for the week.
Oh, yeah, sure. I would like to point out real quick how we've got book 6 coming up. Oh man, and I know that I say this, but I am really excited for book 6. And after that, we've got book 7, The Stranger. And then our first Megamorphs book. We're gonna do the Megamorphs. We're gonna slide them in kind of chronologically with where they fit into the series. With I guess that's their release date technically, but that's all I gotta say about that.
I can't wait to get past the first Megamorphs book and get to the real Megamorphs book, Megamorphs number 2, In the Time of the Dinosaurs.
Oh, yeah, I only read that one once as well. And yeah, we are starting to get into the books that I really only did read one time.
Oh, man, we're getting into the books I've never read. 14,
wow.
15, 16.
Wait, you didn't read 15?
What?
You didn't read 15?
Which one's 15?
15 is The Escape.
Is that the one where Marco's a hammerhead shark on the front?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I have read that one.
That's the next Visser 1 book.
Yeah, I have read that one.
Yeah, I think I was going to say, but I couldn't find it while we were talking about it. But yeah, that's number 15.
There's a few teens and a couple 20s I haven't read, so I'm excited to get to those.
I can tell you right away, the first book that I ever skipped, for sure, was book 14, The Unknown, with Cassie.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not even a matter of me skipping them. I definitely haven't read that one either. But it's not a matter of me skipping them. It's just, at this point, I had bought the originals, the first 10 or so, just because those were the most readily available, and they were the most at the time I was reading them. And then the rest of the series, it was really just a hodgepodge of finding them at libraries or the occasional Walden Books run. You know, I didn't mean to read them out of order. I was just young and naive.
Oh, I was quite OCD even back then, and had to do everything in order.
Yeah.
But, get excited because next time we're reading book 6, The Capture, and it is, honestly, I'm going to say this, I think it's my favorite Animorphs book. So
I'm not going to go that far.
That's big.
I'm not going to go that far because David never shows up in it, but...
Boo!
But
Boo,
where I was
David.
saying... What I was saying earlier in my review about books being iconic, I think book 6 is pretty damn iconic.
I would agree with you, sir. Book 6, book 7, and then Megamorphs. I'm pumped. How about you?
I'm about as pumped as I've ever been in my entire life.
Awesome.
Anyway, thank you so much for listening to Thoughtspeak. Join us next week when we review book number 6, The Capture. If you enjoyed this episode, you can keep up with the show by liking our Facebook or following us on Twitter @MorphCast. You can send us your questions or comments by emailing thoughtspeakcast@gmail.com. Rate the show on iTunes and Stitcher so more people can find out about it and join the conversation.
Join the conversation.
Join it.
Thoughtspeak.
Well, that's another week. Thank you, everyone. I'm Coleman.
And I'm Mitchell. And that's Thoughtspeak this week. See y'all next week.